Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's morning briefing.
Israel is believed to have just launched yet another airstrike on a military target in Syria. This comes mere days after Israeli jets were allegedly seen bombing an Iranian base in the region, but this new target appears to be a Syrian military outpost just outside Damascus. Israel, as a matter of policy, doesn't comment on its operations, but Syrian media is saying missiles were launched by Israeli fighters. Syria also claims that they actually blocked the missiles from hitting their marks. However, video that's just surfaced on social media shows a barrage of rockets apparently exploding right on target. This outpost is said to be the same one targeted by the army back in 2013, intercepting a delivery of Russian-made SA-17 missiles to Hezbollah. This site is also known to be a scientific research center used by Syria, as well as a well-stocked arms cache. But to see not one but two airstrikes like this in Syria just days apart could mean Israel is ramping up its strategy to prevent further conflict. Meanwhile, on Israel's southern border, the army believes at least two rockets may have just been launched from Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Sirens went off early in the morning, however, Israel is investigating if these may have been false alarms. Well, the deadline to move the American embassy to Jerusalem has come and gone, but President Trump has still yet to make a decision. Experts say Trump can still legally miss the deadline for another few days, but tensions are already mounting over what the final word will be. While many Israelis have been lobbying for years to have the embassy moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, American leadership has historically avoided such a decision, fearing a total collapse of stability in the region. That's because both Israel and the Palestinians see Jerusalem as their capital, an issue that continues to fiercely divide the world's powers. This issue also remains at the center of most possible two-state proposals. Top Palestinian leaders are warning that if Trump so much as even recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital, it would completely annihilate any chance of peace with Israel. While there's no telling what Trump's decision will be, word is that U.S. officials are warning American embassies throughout the region to brace for violence if Trump does move the embassy to Jerusalem. Terror groups all over the region, including Hamas, which is currently trying to seal a Palestinian unity deal with the PA, are also promising unprecedented new violence if Trump moves ahead. But once again, all we can do for now is wait for the president's decision. In a landmark decision, the Israeli High Court of Justice has just ruled that the state must now come up with legal justification for their support of the settlement legalization bill. The bill would allow retroactively legalizing the forceful takeover of private Palestinian land, as long as the outpost was already established upon it and the landowners are compensated financially. It was passed last February, but its implementation has been delayed after being challenged and ultimately deemed unconstitutional by Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit last month. And now, after more legal battles, Chief Justice Esther Hayut has given the state until this coming February to explain constitutionally why this bill should not be nixed. Until that time, it will continue to be unimplemented. Initial defenses of the bill claimed it was actually good for the Palestinians, as they would be compensated for land that they would otherwise have simply forfeited. But that defense has been found insufficient, as the defense itself even acknowledges the illegality of building on land one doesn't own, though it did only call it a, quote, minor infraction, end quote. Left-wing legal rights groups are hailing Monday's ruling for putting the burden of proof back onto the state, but pro-settlement groups like Regavim argue the court's choice sets a dangerous precedent that undermines the authority of the Knesset. Further, while Mandelblit said he opposed the law in and of itself, he also acknowledged that the regulation of these outposts could just as easily be accomplished through bureaucratic means that are already on the books. So for opponents of this bill, we're not out of the woods just yet. Sitting down with several African ambassadors, United States Ambassador to Israel David Friedman, and the Power Africa coordinator Andrew Herskowitz, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just overseen the first major step towards helping provide tens of millions of people with electricity. The multi-billion-dollar Power Africa program created through the USAID organization aims to connect, quote, technical and legal experts, the private sector, and governments from around the world to work in partnership to increase the number of people with access to power, end quote. And that's where Israel comes in too. By partnering with this project, dozens of Israeli clean energy firms will now have a gateway to break into the African market, for the betterment of all sides involved. Israeli-American firm Energia Global, for example, is now gearing up to invest $2 billion in wind, hydro, and solar projects across 10 African nations, and African leaders are also happy to acquire the latest and most efficient technologies from the Jewish state. All in all, Power Africa is now set to oversee 84 projects with over $54 billion in committed investments. Actress, comedian, and former SNL cast member Michaela Watkins is now in Israel on the last legs of an 8-day tour that the veteran star says surprised her, quote, multiple times during each day in ways that are unexpected, end quote. In fact, the whole trip was unexpected, as Watkins admits she only came to Israel for the first time now, and without any real reasoning. Her visit was organized along with 28 others through the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project, and in the first few days of the tour, Watkins already seems to have been visibly moved, having visited the Ziv Medical Center in Tzfat and the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial. But what's especially interesting is that she says, quote, "For the first time in my life, I'm experiencing intense anti-Semitism directed at me, and that is so weird," end quote. But pressure to be silenced aside, the actress who now stars in the Hulu original program Casual says the trip has blown her away at every possible turn.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.